So, the United States seems to have just come to the reality that the drone threat is real. Now, they may have been paying attention to this behind the scenes, behind closed doors, something that I cannot see. Maybe they're already up in arms about it. But this, what just happened, it's good that the United States is seeing it. It's going to not be so great for Ukraine. So, let me explain the whole case here and you'll see what I'm talking about. These are from headlines today from the Wall Street Journal and other places. Exclusive: U.S. is redirecting critical anti-drone technology from Ukraine to U.S. forces. Well, that is going to U.S. forces shows you that their threat, their understanding, and that is coming from Ukraine is not so good. Okay, Ukraine claims massive drone strike on Russian bombers and spiderweb operation. You know what happened there. 34% of the Russian bombers were hit, and how it was done by moving trucks in and just being so close to the base, and then just this quick strike. And yeah, so how it's done, like, think about what could happen in the future. Let's say something broke out between China and Taiwan, and the U.S. was interested in actually stopping that, and that's where the U.S. military doctrine has been heading. It looks like China could replicate this kind of thing very quickly here in the United States. Like, I live not too far from an Air Force and a Navy base, and there's not a lot keeping people from being near the gates of those bases. And yeah, it could go very badly very quickly if we're not careful. So we need to be paying attention, because warfare has changed unconditionally in the future. It has changed. The ground has shifted. Okay, so Hegseth. Now you might think that this was some kind of like intentional intentional objective on the part of Hegseth, but I don't think that's it. I wouldn't fault you for thinking that either. Hegseth skipped the organizing meeting on organizing military aid to Ukraine for the first time. That's the first time that the U.S. didn't send him or his equivalent. Was Lloyd Austin before. So now he sent the U.S. ambassador, and so it looks like kind of a snub. And then, so I would expect that you would think that. I talked about this. This was bad yesterday. Trump's call with Putin, and it's not really looking good. Where Trump comes out afterwards and he says he just spoke to Vladimir Putin, and they discussed the attack on Russia's docked airplanes, like as if it was just some kind of sucker punch and that they weren't actually at war with each other. We talked about that in this video here. And so on the heels of this, you would think that there's something more, but I don't think it's what you think it is. Okay, U.S. is redirecting critical anti-drone technology from Ukraine to U.S. forces. This is in the Wall Street Journal. Now, there are voices now coming out starting to say in louder and in greater number, like, we better be paying attention to what's going on here. Here's the former Republican Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, and he's talking about how Ukraine's drones assault on Russian Air Force was an astonishing success, an enormous wake-up call for the president, Congress, and the national security system to take seriously. That's right. Okay, so not only was it a success for Ukraine, but it means that, hey, we better rethink the way that we are vulnerable, and we're not even thinking about how we're vulnerable. It's almost like 9/11, like nobody was even thinking, hey, what if a plane is hijacked and ran into buildings? What would happen? It wasn't even on our radar. Well, now this better be on our radar. Keith Kellogg raised concerns that Ukraine's drone strikes on Russia's nuclear capable bombers could have a deep psychological impact. I think that's fair. I think that did happen. He personally deemed the risk unacceptable. I don't think that's fair. But the psychological impact, go back to that scenario where China starts to take Taiwan, and then the U.S. Air Force is put on alert, and then something like that happens there. So this kind of thing is not outside the bounds of reality, of possibility. Okay, now there's something more to this. This is a little clip from Ryan Macbeth talking about the way that drones are created in Ukraine. Just listen to this.
All right, let's talk about drone production in Ukraine. Ukraine literally has thousands of basement drone shops. The good news is that this has distributed production. Right, it is very difficult to destroy all 1,000, 2,000 drone manufacturing shops. The bad is that you have multiple designs, and sometimes you're making the same mistakes, and brigades compete for talent. So if, let's say, you are in the 11th National Guard Brigade, and you come up with an idea that solves a problem that your soldiers have, you might not necessarily tell the 13th National Guard Brigade, right? Number one, you're busy. Number two, in some ways, like you're competing with them, right? You're competing with them for the best drone footage that will attract Western audiences to send your brigade money. So they're not necessarily helping each other.
Okay, so what he's talking about here is the decentralized nature of the Ukrainian drones and how this is impacting what's going on in the war. So as a management professor, I'm looking at this going, wow, that's really powerful that Ukraine has a decentralized, they're being made in basements. It's hard to take out all the drone production in Ukraine at one time. So as opposed to a very centralized place where it could be hit and then knock out all the drones. And what we know is Ukraine's gone from trying to get 1 million drones in the previous year to trying to get 2.5 million. They're probably going to go blow past that up to 3 million. That's my estimation over the next calendar year, the next 365 days. Okay, so I showed you that because there's a lot of drones out there and China has a lot of them and they can bring these to bear. And I'm not even worried about what's going on with Russia right now. What's going on with China is something that the U.S. is very focused on and they have lots of them. And this is Dan Bongino. He is the deputy FBI director. If you're a partisan in the United States on the left, you won't like this guy. I can tell you, you won't like this guy. On the right, if you're MAGA, you probably like him. But he is the real deal comes from Secret Service. And then he was doing some podcasting and on Fox News as a guest and that sort of thing. But he's the deputy director. Listen to what he says about this threat to drones. He's talking to Sean Hannity, also somebody that is a darling of the right, not well liked on the left. But just listen to the conversation.
And I know you all to be honorable people. My sources have repeatedly told me that they can barely sleep at night, that if the average American knew how bad it was, they'd be shocked to their inner core. Is that true?
Yeah. By the way, if you call me sir, I'll start looking for my dad. So let's not start that anytime soon, Sean. But I appreciate it. I'm just trying to lighten it up because your question's so serious. Yeah. But the premise of your question is 100% accurate. The threat picture now for the United States is dramatic, and I really appreciate we have a president, an attorney general, and FBI director who take those threats seriously.
Okay, he's taking partisan shots, but put that aside. Listen to what he has to say.
I mean, you name it, Sean. You ask me what's the biggest threat right now. People say, well, what keeps you up at night? Well, the answer is that I'd never sleep if I thought about this stuff all the time, but it all keeps me up at night. The drone threat. This is a perilous...
The drone threat in the United States. Listen to this.
Acute threat. It's not here tomorrow. It's here today. Everybody saw what happened in Russia. It's only a matter of time if we don't take action, which I promise you, the Attorney General and the Director and I are taking action on this threat. It is here right now. You've got the threat of AI.
Okay, so don't even worry about whatever. The drone threat, okay, so he's aware of that. So here is going back to that same article, U.S. redirecting critical anti-drone tech because they get it, because they're understanding. After they saw what happened there, they started going, Here's Anton Gerashchenko. U.S. administration redirected advanced anti-drone fuses originally meant for Ukraine to U.S. forces in the Middle East, the Wall Street Journal reported. Reportedly, this was done on the orders of U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. The Pentagon informed Congress of this decision last week, calling it urgent. The fuses, part of the Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System, APKWS, were designed to counter drone attacks at a lower cost than air-to-air missiles and are one of the most important components of the APKWS as it detonates the warhead when the missile approaches the drone. They were initially procured by the Biden administration to defend Ukraine against Russia's massive drone campaign, which has involved over 20,000 drones in 2025 alone. The APKWS transformed the 77mm Hydra unguided aircraft missile into a cheap, high-precision missile weapon. The Vampire missile system was created based on this missile. The systems were developed specifically for Ukraine to detect and intercept enemy drones, including Iranian Shahed drones, which are called Garan 2 in Russia. Okay, but they're getting it. So I don't see this as trying to necessarily deprive Ukraine as much as it is to go, uh-oh, we better protect our own stuff here, and this is a way to do it. Now, are they stealing it from Ukraine? Absolutely. Is that terrible? Yes. I hate that to see that that's happening, but it's good to know that at least they're on notice that something is happening. Look, drone technology has been going up at a significant rate. This is the most recent advance that the Ministry of Defense approved, the Ukrainian-made Chief 1 unmanned aerial system for use in the armed forces. Just this past week, I talked about this, and it's only going to improve and improve and improve. And as it does, that threat becomes a significant problem. I mean, we think in terms of, say, World War II, tanks and planes and helicopters in Vietnam. Like, you can't. One of the things that Ryan Macbeth said in that same talk was, like, you can't. He was talking about ground drones, and you can't take a helicopter into a dangerous zone and pick up people to transport them out like we saw in Vietnam or other places, right? That just doesn't happen anymore because of the threat of drones. So everything has changed. All right, tell me what you think about this. Again, I think they're getting it. They understand the threat. Now, again, what they did by taking it from Ukraine was terrible, but the U.S. is like cluing in, and I think that that's good for the U.S. long term. Hopefully, they'll shift and be better in arming Ukraine and recognizing what's going on. But that's a whole second discussion. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.